Hello my friends, I hope you are all doing well. Today I am going to be making some fermented pickles. I've never done this before, so this will be an experiment. I have, however, fermented vegetables before, but only a few. I've done fermented beets. We just did those a few weeks ago for the first time. And then I have a batch of this fermented cabbage going. I also put some red pepper flake and some caraway seed in here. But otherwise, it's just cabbage, salt, and that's it. Cabbage, salt, red pepper flake, and caraway seed. I did not add any water to this at all, you guys. What I did was I took the cabbage, I sliced it all up and threw it into a bowl. I put my salt on top of the cabbage and I massaged it into the cabbage, which produced its own brine, which was enough to cover the entire jar. So that actually, I think this has been going for about a week now. You know what? Let's taste this. Because it's about time. It smells like sauerkraut, guys. Sauerkraut. I am very excited about this. Now, in our house, we love kimchi. This is not technically kimchi. This is just plain cabbage, that like a green cabbage head that I bought from the store. And I'm gonna save these for my chickens because why not let them benefit from having some fermented food as well. It is so bubbly and delicious looking. Okay, I'm gonna go on for this. Oh, it's so crunchy. Do you hear that? Wow. Bo is gonna go crazy for this stuff. The caraway seed was genius. This is delicious. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be a new staple, guys. Whoops. My chopstick skills are lacking. Literally with the caraway in there, it tastes like a Reuben sandwich, like that flavor of the rye. It's delicious. Okay, anyway, on to what we were doing. Today we are going to be making some fermented pickles. These sound delicious and amazing, and I'm even more excited about them after trying that cabbage. I think I'm gonna get the flavors that I want, although if I had pickling spice, I would totally add that, but I don't. So this batch will probably just be salt brined. I do have dill and I do have some garlic, so I will probably just make these like a dill garlic pickle. How awesome is this gonna be, guys? So let's get to it. I also wanted to add that I do have my jar over here in the sink. I cleaned it really well and then I poured boiling water over it to sterilize it. So it's sitting with boiling water in it as it waits for me to prepare all of this. This was a really funny pickle. And you know what? I'm going to eat it anyway, so why not ferment it? I'm curious if this will help any of my cucumbers that have tougher skins, like the ones that went a little too long. I guess we shall find out, my friends. So I have my jar right here. So I'm just gonna start putting them in there as I chop them. These are all freshly washed. I scrubbed them pretty good, although we don't usually, you know, worry about scrubbing our produce from our garden. And I'm just gonna periodically shake these down to really try to get them in there. So when I was doing my fermented beets, my in-laws had come over. They are both very big foodies as well. And I had to show him my fermenting beets because he's really into like fermented foods and things like that. He was so intrigued, he asked about the mason top setup that I have, and he ordered some for himself to have, and he immediately, as soon as he got them, started fermenting some veggies himself. Yesterday when we were over at their house, he pulled out a couple of jars and let us try them, and they were amazing. He did a jar with, I think one of them had cauliflower, some peppers, like spicy peppers, and carrots in them. Yeah, I think I might do, I think I'm gonna do my bigger jar. I was originally going to use this one first, and then I changed my mind because I didn't think I had enough cucumbers to fill it, but I'm changing my mind. Whoa, more sacrifices. Okay. Huxley, you should eat those cucumbers so they don't go to waste. Yeah, you should eat those. Either you eat them or the chickens are gonna. So anyways, my father-in-law was very excited about his vegetables. So he did cauliflower and carrots and some peppers in one jar. The second jar he pulled out, he had, I think there were cucumber spears. I think he also had, I know there was garlic in there. I'm not sure if he had anything else in there. Maybe some spices, but oh my gosh. I took a bite of one of those cucumber spears, and it made me so excited. I've been wanting to do fermented pickles since I first realized it was a thing about a year ago, and I've just never done it. Because if I'm being honest, fermenting seemed a lot more complicated than it actually is. Literally, you just throw things into a jar, pour brine over it, and you put your little pickle pipes on it with the ring, and you just leave it for however long, I mean, you want. It's really about your taste preferences. Some people, I've heard some people going as little as just a few days, and I've heard other people like it closer to 2 weeks. And of course, the temperature of your house will also play a big part. If it's warmer, it's gonna ferment a little bit faster than if it was cooler. I did not think I had enough cucumbers to fill this jar. Well, okay, I'm totally okay with that. Okay, and then I'm also going to add a clove of garlic. If I had more garlic, I would use more than just one clove, but this is all that I have left over from pickling the garlic that I pickled recently. So this is just gonna be what's gonna be thrown in the jar. It's better than nothing, I suppose. But my preference is always more garlic. And I'm just gonna add a few spices. I'm gonna add a little bit of red pepper flake. Or a lot, you know, whatever. So I added a little bit of red pepper, flaked. And then I'm gonna add some dill, kind of a lot. It's totally cool. And I believe pickling spice has coriander in it usually, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of that. I also have some freshly ground black pepper, so I'm gonna add a couple big pinches of that. If you're like me and you do not enjoy the pepper that you can buy ground already up from the store because the flavor I find really lacks, what I like to do is I will just buy whole peppercorns in bulk, and I will just blend them. I use a NutriBullet, and I will blend it up into a powder, and just in batches like this. And when this is gone, I will blend up some more, and it's always fresh, and you don't need as much when it's freshly ground. I'm also gonna add just a shake of ground clove and a tiny pinch of cinnamon. All right, my friends, now we are gonna make up the brine. Now, when I made the beets, I made up the brine and I poured it over my beets. But what my father-in-law did is he took, I think his were quart jars, he took, I think he said a tablespoon of salt and just poured it in the jar and then poured the water over it. I think I am going to make the brine because I like the idea of having a consistent solution throughout the entire jar. So that way I know everything has enough salt to not grow anything icky. So anyway, I think that's what I'm gonna do this time, is make up the brine and then pour it over. All right, my friends, so I'm ready to make my brine. I'm just going to use pink Himalayan salt. I'm gonna take this quart. I'm gonna start with just one so that I can get a rough idea how much solution I need. Here's two. I'm gonna give it a good stir and try to dissolve as much salt as I can. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so I'm going to take my brine and pour it over the pickles. Oh, see? It only took one. Let me get that extra salt in there. And there we go. So I added 2 tablespoons of salt in here. Take my handy dandy chopstick. And I'm gonna try to get any air out that I can. When you are fermenting, oxygen is your enemy. You wanna keep it out as much as you can. You know, I'm almost tempted. I wonder if I could reuse these leaves. You probably could. They smell delicious. I'm not going to though. I'm gonna take my also sterilized weight. See, these guys are gonna be tricky. You know what? I think I am gonna use the cabbage leaves. At least one of them. Let's see how well this works. Get under there, Pickles. Okay, I think I'm gonna just leave it like that. I really don't even think it needs the weight. I think the cabbage leaf is plenty. I am so curious to see how these turn out. I have been wanting to make these puppies for over a year. So this is a mason top pickle pipe. I think they call their weights pickle pebbles. And this one, this is called a pickle pipe. So essentially these work like an airlock would with any kind of fermenting that you might do. I have little dillweed pieces on my hand from sticking my fingers down in my jar. Anyway, this essentially, it's an airlock, but it's a really like easy to use, easy to clean, easy to keep sterilized piece. It's just silicone, and it has just a little hole. It's got just a little hole in it. So as everything in here begins fermenting, essentially what it's gonna do is it's gonna build up gas because it's feeding on everything. And so the gas is gonna rise to the top. And if you have a tight lid on here, you don't need these to do this. You could just use a regular lid, but you have to remember to burp your jars or essentially just unscrew this once or twice a day. I've never done it that way, so I don't actually know how often you're supposed to do it, but that's just a guess. You probably want to burp your jars a couple times a day because you don't have to remember to burp your jars and you don't have to fear your jars blowing up. Don't let that scare you, my friends. So you don't tighten these too tight. I did that with my first batch, my beets, and it took me a hot minute to unscrew the jar. So it was a little frustrating when you want to try your fermented beets and you can't because you can't get the lid off because you screwed it down like She-Hulk. So you put your lid on like this and you just set it in a place where it's going to not get any direct sunlight, and you just leave it. For total preference, I would start, if you're new to fermenting, I would probably start checking, like tasting it after like 3 to 5 days and see what you think of it. I tend to prefer mine to go a little longer, not just because I like the flavor, but I'm also used to the flavor of fermented foods. So I think I will probably start checking these maybe around day, like, I'll probably check around day 5, but I will probably let them go closer to like 8-9 days. We'll see. We'll check them together and see what we think, see how they're coming along. How pretty is this? Oh, I can't wait to see what these look like and taste like. Oh, you guys, yum. So I'm just gonna keep these on my counter so I can keep an eye on them, and I will check on them in a few days. Until then, I'm gonna be eating some deliciously fermented cabbage with caraway. I don't know if I could ever make this without caraway now. Like literally, it's like having a Reuben. Ooh, that bite was spicy. Okay. I am curious to see how the pickles come out, but I can definitely recommend doing this with cabbage. All right, my friends, over to the counter she goes. Well, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this quick little fermented pickle recipe. Come back in a week and a half or so, and we will see how these pickles are doing. Until then, happy gardening, friends, and happy fermenting. Until next time, have a good one.